Growing up, I always wanted two children, a boy named Eli and a little girl named Ivy. Well, life happens, and here I am. I'm 47 years old and a stay-at-home mom of seven children, from 23 years old down to 6 years old. It's a little bit of his, mine, and ours. After the birth of my oldest son, I vowed never to give birth again because it really hurt a lot. So, with the intent to adopt my second child, I sealed the deal and I had a tubal ligation. After a successful adoption and a failed marriage, I was a single mom of two boys. So when I remarried, our new family was often called the Brady Bunch. And we were happy with our six kids until we weren't. However, I was unable to have children anymore. So we decided to adopt through the foster care system. After countless classes, stacks of paperwork, sealing this, locking that, and several interviews, we were finally certified through a foster family agency. After we finalized the adoption of our daughter, we discussed closing our home and just being a quote unquote normal family, but I couldn't walk away from fostering. So, with the support of my husband, we rolled over to the county and we kept fostering. Many people ask me if I work outside the home, and when they do, without even thinking, I often say, no, I'm just a foster mom. Just a foster mom. Now, I have never done this for recognition or praise. It's just what I do. It's who I am. However, when I think about how I say that, it speaks volumes for how many foster parents feel daily. We've been glorified and demonized, yet we're not angels nor villains. We're just human. As humans, it feels good to be acknowledged now and then. And we know our friends and our family mean well, but when they compliment us, it often comes out sounding something like, oh, you're such a saint. You have such a big heart. Oh, those kids are so lucky. That child should be grateful for what you give to him. You're so amazing. And my favorite, I would never be able to give them back. Well, the reality is we aren't saints. We don't have big hearts because we're foster parents. We have big hearts because that's who we happen to be. Children in the foster care system, believe it or not, they're not lucky and they should not be expected to feel grateful to us. To be honest, the children are the strong ones and we are the lucky ones. And sometimes our bonus kiddos, they allow themselves to feel the love that we have for them. Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. And sometimes it hurts like hell when they leave. Believe it or not, we do have hearts and they do break. In contrast, there are also misconceptions that are not spoken directly to us. These are the opinions heard through the grapevine, in the news, or on social media. One of the most popular is that we do it for the money because we get rich from it. We also starve and abuse our kids, treating them as less than our own. Occasionally, social workers feel we are trying to sabotage reunification with biological family because we want to adopt that kid. And sometimes social workers think, oh, do they think they know more than we do? Being a foster parent is a full-time job. On top of everyday life, schedules change with every single new placement. There are visitations, which may include one for each parent. If grandparents are granted visits, we are lucky if they're incorporated into the parents' visit. However, extended family or other people invested in this child may request visits. And if granted, this is another visit. Physicals and dental checkups need to be made within the first 30 days. Many of our bonus kiddos need extensive dental work, requiring an oral surgeon. Guess what? That's another appointment. It's preferred to keep school-age children in their home school, and this may require additional travel time, especially if the parents have biological children in school already. If a working parent doesn't have childcare in place, He or she is probably going to have to take leave from work for a couple of days just to set this up. It's encouraged to keep kids involved in extracurricular activities that meets their needs or their interests, and that's more travel time. Once it's determined that the child qualifies for therapeutic services, the number of appointments hinge on the child's needs. For example, one child may require one session a week, while another child with more severe emotional or behavioral needs demands more sessions per week. When a parent has placement of multiple children, the schedules can be quite daunting, which can lead to burnout very quickly. In 1997, researchers surveyed licensed foster parents in 7 local authorities. They followed up with these same foster parents 18 months later to see if they were still fostering. The focus was foster parent retention, why they quit, and ways to keep foster parents from quitting. This case study looked to answer what care providers are seeking from social workers and found the accessibility of social workers was a major factor. Study subjects complained of social workers showing up at random hours without notification or not visiting at all. In a separate study, a case-controlled method was used consisting of over 1,000 foster and former foster families. Several reasons for quitting or thinking of quitting fostering revolved around poor communication with social workers, a lack of daycare and or respite, and inadequate or the lack of services for children and care providers. I'm an administrator for a private foster care and adoption group on Facebook and a member of several other groups. In a couple of the groups, I dared ask that question. I asked what frustrations make current foster parents consider quitting, what they felt would make things easier or would make them reconsider if they were on the brink of quitting. I had an influx of responses. Most responses concentrated on the lack of inclusion, the appreciation for the care providers' time, effort, and busy schedules, cost of childcare, respite, transportation assistance, and therapeutic resources for the care providers. When speaking, if you listen, they're just asking for change. Sally said, "We're on the same team. Even if we'd like to adopt this child, we're on the same team. So often we're treated as an adversary or someone who's just babysitting for a little while. Stop it." Michelle says, "Allow us to have a voice. We know the kids better than anyone because they live with us full time. So when we have concerns about the child or the visitations, please take them seriously." She followed up with, "When there are major behavioral issues, but we're still willing, able, and want to adopt the children, please don't take our cry for help as a desire for us to have the children moved." So basically, I'm asking for more emotional and behavioral support. Mackenzie says, "Knowing that our voice as the child's care provider matters. At the end of the day, the social workers have no idea what we see or go through with these children every night and every day. And we just have to watch a social worker who barely knows this child speak for this child." Virginia states, "I hate being told that they need new foster families and then being treated like part of the problem in the case once we have a placement." Kim comments, the uncertainty is so overwhelming. I know the social workers can't be completely open about the case, but it would be helpful to be given as much information as possible, just so we know what to expect. And providing an outlet for foster parents to process and ask questions without judgment. Everybody else involved gets therapy and attorneys but the foster parents don't. Throughout her book, Creating Compassionate Kids, Essential Conversations to Have with Young Children, and her interview on Talks with Google, Dr. Shauna Tomini emphasizes the importance of building trust with our children by being open and available to them, having difficult conversations in a healthy manner. This allows children to learn to trust caregivers, knowing that they have a safe person to fall on when they need it. However, foster parents are taking a risk when talking about sensitive subjects with bonus kiddos when they don't have knowledge of the child's trauma. For example, knowing there has been a sexual assault accusation that is being investigated is imperative for the family to know how to have talks without unknowingly triggering this child. Now, we all know when a child is placed on a new referral, the extent of this child's trauma cannot be known entirely. However, if new information is disclosed, it is important to update the care provider. Another prominent plea for help came in the regard of child care. Jennifer states, $30 a day doesn't even cover the cost of childcare, so more resources for cheaper and or free childcare. Bonnie agrees. Childcare would change everything. I can't tell you how many children I have had to say no to because I couldn't arrange after school care without incredibly expensive daycare. Virginia says childcare would be amazing for those under 3 and for after school programs. I live in a lower income area, so once they turn 3, there are lots of programs they can enroll in during the day. Take a look at this graph and you'll see in California in 2018, child care centers for an infant was roughly about $1,448 a month. For a preschooler, it ran about $1,014. For a home daycare, infants, they run about $976 a month, about $914 for preschoolers. But in 2017, just a year before, the state decided to give a bump to the reimbursement up to a whopping $889. So as you can see, that reimbursement doesn't even come close to covering childcare, much less any other basic needs that the child needs. In 2004, Washington launched a pilot program called the Mockingbird Family Model. This program brings together several foster families to create a sense of extended family. These families, referred to as satellite homes, are managed by the main home called the Hub Home. The families meet for activities and meetings, allowing the children to become familiar with the other families. The families offer support to each other, such as emotional support and respite. In situations of emergency, the Hub Home always has 2 beds open in case a satellite family is in crisis and needs a child removed for a short term. The program has been very successful in Washington, and they expanded now to include 6 sites in Washington. Word is spreading, and in 2015, there were also 3 sites in Kentucky and 8 sites in Washington, D.C. A few years ago, Fresno, California Department of Social Services launched the only model in California. After working out the kinks and losing 2 families, including the Hub Home, it is still active. With other families wanting to participate, administration is working toward creating a second model. With every good idea comes limitations. The Mockingbird family model is no exception. It is imperative to have families who can work together and trust each other. For example, if a foster parent doesn't feel comfortable leaving a child with the other family model families, the resource is not going to be of much help. The hub family of each model needs to be strong and organized. Department supervision overseeing the program must be organized, up to date, and communicate well with the families. Supervisors must make themselves easily accessible. It is apparent that DSS is trying to make changes. However, still seems to be missing the mark. Loving a child in the foster care system is the equivalent of a roller coaster ride with no safety restraints. There are twists and turns without any warning. Things start out slowly, and before you know it, you don't know which way you're going or where you even are. Sometimes you even go backwards, all without the confidence of the safety bar. Even if you've ridden the same roller coaster several times, your heart still races and your stomach still turns. Some people love thrill rides, and others are just not cut out for it. For every foster parent, there are positive and negative aspects. Aside from some negative behaviors from the kiddos, the vast majority of foster parents say their biggest struggles are with the department and or the social workers. In researching this topic, it is apparent that this is not a new issue. My research went back 23 years, and sadly, foster parents were reporting the same struggles still experienced today. Over 20 years, and we're still just foster parents.